What's going on, friends? It's Coach Elliot coming to you finally with some nutrition, and we're going to be doing our 6-week perfect portion programming. Whew, that's a mouthful. We'll get it down though eventually though, for sure. Try saying that 10 times fast, right? For this program, we're going to be going into nutrition, of course. We know you've had a big demand for this, so we want to obviously deliver the things that you want. So good job clicking on these videos and looking into just the next step, kind of that missing component, right? We exercise super hard, and then all of a sudden we're not getting as many results. We kind of hit that plateau. Now we got to start going to the nutrition aspect, because that is just as big a part. Actually, as we started to know now, it's an even bigger component of how we want to actually start losing weight and being even healthier. So this 6-week program is going to do a lot to help us get to those points that we want to get to. So the first week, what we'll do, and kind of today's lesson, is going to be going into nutrition 101, just some of the basics, do a little bit of debunking of some false facts and fiction kind of thing, and some myths and things like that to dieting and exercise. So we'll go over some of that stuff. Then the following week, next week, what we'll do, our second week, we'll be doing some reading of the labels and kind of going under what they actually are saying or what they're not telling you. So how to read labels properly. Week 3, we're going to be making sure that we're measuring out our portions properly and also staying within the recommended ranges that we're being given. Week 4, we'll cover over some healthy alternatives, right? Because we hear the word healthy and everyone's like, oh, where's all the flavor, the salt, all the sugar, where's it all going to go? We're going to take care of that in week 4. Don't you worry, okay? Then in week 5, what we'll do is making sure that we're going to be successful, being amongst other people. Now that we're starting to go out to eat a little bit more, maybe socializing a little bit more, we want to make sure that the people that we're around aren't sabotaging us. We want to make sure that we're able to stick to a good eating program regardless of where we are, okay? And we'll kind of top things off in week 6 with just how can we do this for the long haul, right? How can we make this a successful, lasting story for ourselves at any age, whether you're 15, you're watching this for the first time, or you're 59 or 99, whatever it might be. You're making a great choice by taking care of the body, and that's going to also help get a lot of benefits as well. Things like it's going to help our joints feel a lot better. It's going to increase our quality of life in the long run as well, which is just a huge component. It's going to help us hopefully get down to that ideal weight that we've been looking to get down to, or even just lose a few pounds and make us feel a little bit better. We're going to look better, and when you look better, you also do start to feel better. There's a big connection between that little bit of vanity that we like to see what we're looking at, and it does help us feel a lot better as well. And it's going to be giving you lots of more energy. You'll be like all the Zoom coaches is bouncing all over the place, of course. And then we'll also be improving that brain function. Super important, right? You can have the best body in the world, but if up here isn't working, as we know, the rest doesn't matter. So we're going to be taking care of all of that today and going on in the continuing weeks here. So I'm super excited to take this journey with you. So let's get started with our lesson today. Alrighty, friends, so let's go into today's lesson, okay? So today we're going to be going into some of those food or those diet myths that we've heard about before, okay? We'll talk about our metabolic rate, calorie counting, food tracking, and things like that as well. So some of the first things I want to talk about is some of those dieting myths or just those food myths in general. One of the first ones is how people think that if you eat late at night, that's going to make you overweight, right? It's not quite as cut and dry as that. If you do eat late at night, of course, if you eat tons of food late at night, more calories than your body needs, you're going to start putting weight on. But having small snacks all throughout the day and even later at night, it might make it a little bit harder to sleep, but that's not going to be the reason really why you're gaining the extra weight. Typically that means because you're eating more calories than your body actually needs. So the timing isn't as important. It's important for a good night's sleep, but that's not really going to be the main factor to why you're gaining weight if you're eating a little bit later at night. Okay? The next thing we always hear when we're trying to lose weight is get rid of the carbs. Now there are good carbs and bad carbs. We kind of label them those two categories for a reason, because our brains like carbs. We need those carbs as fuel. Our body prefers carbs as fuel, okay? There's all sorts of diets. You can use carbs, low carbs, you can use high carb diets and things like that. You've heard all these different types, and most of the time you hear that carbs are bad for you, right? But there are plenty of good healthy carbs out there, fruits and vegetables, as well as whole grains and things like that you should be consuming on a daily basis to make you feel a lot better as well, to give your body that energy. So we want to make sure we're getting enough carbs, healthy carbs. We don't want the French fries every single day, right? Those are the type of carbs that give carbs a bad reputation, right? So we want to make sure when we're doing carbs, eat the right ones. And we'll be going into that more in detail, of course, okay? Then we've got this whole dieting craze in general, right? There's always this, we got this one little answer for you. You just follow our diet and it's going to be working for you, right? Majority of diets don't work for the majority of people because they're just too strict or they're too restrictive, and it makes it very hard to follow it for the long term. Yeah, you can drop 20 pounds really quickly, but you don't learn the good habits that make it a lifelong lesson that you're actually going to be able to hold off to, right? Or something like cutting out carbs or cutting out fats. I can do it for a few weeks and lose a few pounds, feel pretty good, but then I start introducing back into my body, and guess what? Your body's gonna be like, I missed you so much, get back here, I'm gonna put you right here, and you're gonna end up putting that weight back on, unfortunately. So we want to make sure, you know, with the diets and everything like that, that it's more just about lifestyle change, right? Just eating healthier. We're not really a big fan of the D word. We want to make sure it's more of a lifestyle change, okay? And also, we've heard about skipping meals, right? If you eat less meals, you're gonna probably lose weight, right? That's one of the things that people talk about. Again, not necessarily, right? Because what happens when we skip meals like breakfast or even lunch and we only wait till dinner time? You are starving at that point for the most part. Most people are going to be pretty hungry at that point. So what do? You eat a whole bunch of food. A lot of times at that point, our cravings are really kicking in. We've all had those late night cravings, or even if you only eat the one meal in the morning, regardless, you're going to be so hungry throughout the day that you might not make the best decision. So skipping meals, again, is not a great alternative as well. And then there's also the last myth that I want to talk about, is that eating healthy is just too expensive, right? All those healthy foods are just way too expensive. You know, we think of like the words organic or free range, and it does send a little bit more of a price tag at the grocery store, right? But you also got to think of the long term is, if you're eating healthier, you're not going to have as many doctor's visits, right? And if less doctor's visits, that's going to cut down the cost there. So it all evens out in that sense. But also, some of the most healthy foods that you can possibly be eating are some of the cheapest foods, right? Some of those whole grains, some of those carbs that we talked about, the good ones, vegetables are pretty cheap, okay? So you can definitely find good alternatives out there that are going to be just as good, okay? Alrighty, friends, so now that we've kind of gone through some of those myths and debunked them a little bit here and got a little bit more clarification, let's go into something a little bit different. Let's go into calories, okay? Let's talk about calories. We've all heard the word calorie. Most of us know it's on the back of labels and things like that, but what exactly does that mean? We use calories as a measuring system to kind of give us an idea of how many calories do we need to burn in order to lose a certain amount of weight, right? So there's a few ways that we can kind of ourselves lose weight, and that is by counting our calories and making sure that we're not consuming too many of them, right? So there's a few ways that we can kind of ourselves lose weight, and that is by counting our calories and making sure that we're not consuming too many of them, right? So if we're consuming, let's say we're supposed to be consuming 2,000 calories a day, right? It takes 3,500 calories to burn 1 pound, okay? So I need to be at a deficit of 3,500 calories to lose 1 pound of weight, okay? So of course we don't want to do that all in one day, but a safe way to do that is through the course of the week, right? So if we were to take 3,500 calories divided by 7 days a week, that'd be 500 calories a day that we need to be at a deficit, right? So say you have to eat 2,000 calories a day. Let's just keep the number kind of easy, right? That means if you just ate 250 calories less that day, and then maybe exercised enough to burn 250 calories, that would be your 500 calorie deficit. You would just do that all 7 days of the week, and by the end of the week, you would have lost 1 pound, okay? So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can do it by exercising more, so you don't have to decrease the amount you eat, or you can decrease the amount you eat and not have to exercise as much, right? But before you do any of that, you do always want to consult with your coaches, nutritionists, and things like that to make sure you're not doing it the wrong way, in the sense of, you know, burning all your calories one day and then trying to make up for it by eating too much the next day. It can get a little confusing, right? So we want to keep that as simple as possible. So what are a couple easy ways we can burn calories? We can do things like walking. Walking only takes, you know, we can do 15, 20 minutes of walking, and you can burn 20 to 30 calories right there, okay? You can walk for a mile and burn up to 100 calories just doing a 1 mile walk. That's 4 laps around a traditional track, right? You can go on a stepper. You want to find things that you enjoy, right? Because if every single day you're looking to burn that magical 250 calories, we'll say, and you have to do jumping jacks or something crazy, right? Or burpees. We've all heard of those, right? And you have to do those every single day. You're not going to look forward to it. And guess what? We're not going to get that long-term effect that we're looking for as well. So we want to make sure we're finding activities that we enjoy. I know a lot of you love our Zoom videos and our Wellness Everywhere videos. So those have been a great way for you to burn calories. And we know those calories, you do 1 or 2 classes a day. Some of you do more classes a day. Those add up really quickly, and you can really burn a lot of calories doing it that way as well. And don't forget, friends, that when you are exercising, you're bound to put on some muscles. We always look at that scale and we're like obsessed with the numbers, but don't forget that even though our weight might stay the same, if we're putting on muscle, we could be losing bad fat, which is a very healthy thing to do, okay? So let's not always worry too much about the numbers, in the sense that we should also be exercising and putting on a little bit muscle at any stage in our lives, okay? So that's another thing that we'll be talking about. Let's go into some more details as well. Going into some more of those details, friends, let's talk about our resting metabolic rate, okay? So what is that? That is the amount of calories our bodies burn naturally throughout the course of the day. So typically for our friends here at Nifty and Things, people over the age of 50, men are typically burning about 2,000 to maybe 2,200 calories a day at rest at that age, okay? Women a little bit less because typically a little bit less muscle mass, so that usually means that we burn calories a little bit slower while we're at rest. Women are at this age group, it's usually about 1,600 calories a day, okay? That's why those recommended diets that you'll see, or those, requirements would be about 2,000 calories a day for a male and about 1,600 to 1,800 for a female to kind of keep our weight fairly steady, okay? If you eat too much more than that, that's where we see the weight to go up. You eat a lot less than that or a bit less than that, you see your weight go down, okay? So a lot of the things that we go over today, obviously there's a lot to it, so it's really important that we do start to track our food though. Even if you just write it in a journal, it just makes it a lot easier. There's a lot of apps out there as well that you can download onto your phone if you have a smartphone or a smart device. And that way you actually know what you're actually consuming each day, because, we can kind of guesstimate in our head and try to add it all up in our head, and then at the end of the day we might find that, oh my gosh, I ate 1,000 extra calories today, or even just 200 extra calories a day, right? And as we did the math earlier, if you just eat an additional 500 calories a day, by the end of the week, it's the opposite, where you would have put on an entire pound. 1 pound a week, 52 weeks in a year, adds up pretty quick, right? So we want to make sure, again, tracking our food can keep our calories kind of all set and kind of give us a good idea of what we're actually consuming. And there's also the other side of that, where some people need to be eating more, right? Some of us have a higher burning metabolic rate, and some of us need to make sure that we're consuming enough food. We might add up our food and track it one day and realize, wow, I was 500 calories under. No wonder why I'm not putting any weight on or not gaining any lean muscle, right? So making sure we track our food at least for a while till we get a good understanding of how much we should be eating, or a good guesstimation. A good helpful tool. You can do that, again, writing things down and then adding them up at the end of the day. Lots of great apps that will take care of that for you. Other things you want to also start doing is weighing yourself every day, in the sense of getting a good idea of what you're doing is working or not working well for you, right? You don't want to obsess about the numbers, of course, but it's a good idea, again, when you first get started, just to give you a good idea of how much you're actually consuming. And if you're losing weight consistently, we always say about 1 to 2 pounds a week is a great goal. Anything much more than that is not very realistic or very healthy. It's a great way to kind of keep track of that as well. And a great way to start losing weight is finding activities you enjoy. I'm gonna reiterate that, because you're not going to want to stick with something that is not fun and enjoyable at any age, right? So a lot of times when we're younger, we play sports that keeps us active and young and going well. And we get a little bit older, we don't really think about what can we do that we actually enjoy. So a lot of you, again, you choose those awesome Zoom videos. Some of you choose to do walking groups with friends, or hiking, or lower impact exercise. That's great, because you enjoy it and you'll actually stick with it, okay? So that's kind of our lesson for today. I'll give you a little sneak peek for next week though, just because you've been so awesome and taking notes and getting ready for this next step. So next week, as promised, we're going to start going over labels, okay? Reading them correctly, whether you're at the store or you already have some at home. So if you want to, as a little bit of a homework assignment, okay, I know, homework, right? It's okay. It's not a big deal. Maybe just bring a label or two with you for this next lesson, just kind of so you have it to follow along with. Be a good, helpful little experiment. And I'm really happy that you've all joined me today. Can't wait to see you next week and see what you bring, and look forward to seeing you. Take care.